Middlekauff! Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. I'm Guy Haberman. He's John Middlekauff. This is Haberman and Middlekauff. H is for Haberman. A is for and. M is for Middlekauff. Ham is what some people say. This is a mailbag included in our discussion about the Warriors, which will be on our podcast. You'll hear our conversation about the Warriors after game 2. So you have that. If you're watching this live on Sunday, you have that to look forward to. That'll be coming up later Sunday night.
Larry Bird ain't walking through that door.
Larry Bird, Robert Parrish. Yeah.
The fireman and the policeman. Who's that? Kuzi, Havlicek. Did you see JJ Redick call them all firemen and policemen?
I saw Kuzi lash back at him.
Kuzi had a picture
Kuzi
of
ripped
Wilt, Jerry West, and Bill Russell in a picture. He's like, we had a pretty damn good fireman back in the day.
Hey, so you get in our mailbag by going to Apple Podcasts. Leave us a review. 5 stars. We appreciate it. And leave us a question. That question can be about anything, as you'll see as we go through the mailbag questions today. Also, if you want to tell us your favorite bar, we love shouting out cool local places all over the country and all over the world. So include that. We've got a meaty mailbag, John. So it's time for the L mailbag, if you're ready for it.
Let's do it.
First up from Scott in Santa Clara, 5 stars, favorite pod. 2 relatable dudes talking about my favorite teams. Bring insight and make me laugh. I was laughing out loud when I realized the similarities between John Guy and John Boy.
John Boy always throws me off. I always say John Boy, but it's John Boy. It's just
John Boy. John Boy. My question is, what fan moments as kids shaped your love for sports? I was born in 88. For me, it was being at the Garrison-Hurst 98-yard OT run at the stick with my dad. Also, Giants A's playoff runs of 2000-2002, the Jay Rich era and dunk contest with the Warriors. My favorite bar is Sons of Liberty in San Leandro. Has TVs with great food and cocktails. The best specialty cocktail bar in the Bay is Los Gatos Soda Works. No TVs, but drinks are incredible. Presentation top-notch. Shout out to the owners, Jason and Nicole. Go Spartans. Scott in Santa Clara.
Shout out to you, Jason and Nicole.
Which Spartans is that?
San Jose, probably.
San Jose State?
That would be my guess.
Was De La Salle the Spartans?
Yeah, but he's Santa Clara guy.
Yeah. Okay, you're right.
Could be Michigan State.
Friend of the show, Brett Brennan. He's been on.
Yeah.
Been on the show. All right, answer the question. What fan moment as a kid shaped your love for sports?
I'll
tell you first things that come to mind. Sounds cheesy, but it's so true. Like every day my dad came home from work and we played catch. So when I was a little kid, my aunt got me this pinstripe baseball uniform. My mom swears I wore it every day from like age 2 to age 4. Like it just got washed a couple times a week, and I would wear that sucker button-up jersey, the pants, pinstriped. It was just, it wasn't a team. It was just whatever, a brand. I loved. My dad was in the Air Force. We lived in Baltimore, where he's from initially. Then we moved to Nebraska. My 6th birthday, I got the Joe Montana Hutch, like jersey, shoulder pads, pants, helmet, and the Jose Canseco jersey, pants, helmet. And I got a school photo. I went first grade school photo. I'm wearing the full Jose Canseco uniform with the baseball pants in like the full, with the whole class is sitting on bleachers.
Yeah.
So that's up there. I'd say Cal Ripken breaking Lou Gehrig's record was a big one for me. Like I will always remember watching that.
I remember that.
21-31. That was a pretty big one. I'm just rattling things off that come to mind.
I would say the 94 49ers when they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I remember being with my dad at his buddy Jerry's house. They played the Eagles earlier in that season, and they got destroyed. I'm pretty sure they won like the next 10 games. Obviously, one of the great teams of all time. They had like 11 All-Pros. Steve Young, the monkey off his back. Some of probably the late 90s when the Sacramento, Michael Jordan, when he was wearing 45, remember that when he came back, but it's like, I was a Bulls fan just because I love Michael Jordan, like everyone else in America. So when the Sac Kings got really good and like Jay Will got there, White Chocolate was pretty, being like junior high, a lot of 55 jerseys in the Northern California area. He was pretty fucking cool. Obviously the Barry Bonds teams from like 97 to 02 before he got really, really big. I guess he started getting big in like 2000, but yeah, maybe that was when he got it big, late 90s, early 2000s. That kind of group, him, Jeff Kent, some of that, just making runs, going to the playoffs all the time, the one World Series when they went to the World Series in 02, we would have been seniors in high school. I remember going to Ian McKenzie's house to watch some of those games and then lose. So I'd say, I would say really, really young. I remember meeting Muhammad Ali with Noah Burkhoff and his dad, who I was probably like 8 in Sacramento for one of those, like, it was like the hospital put it on. He's sitting there. They probably paid him $50,000. It's kind of a meet and greet. You just walk up, do a shake hand and move on. It's kind of one of those weird deals. But the line, I swear to God, was from like Sacramento to Los Gatos. I mean, there were so many people there to meet Muhammad Ali. At the time, this is probably like early 90s. I can't even imagine, because I had no clue how famous that individual was.
Yeah. No way to grasp it as a kid.
Zero. I mean, at the time, in like the early 90s, I would imagine athletes, Muhammad Ali had to be one of the most top 2 or 3 most famous athletes in the world, right? Michael.
He is right now.
Yeah. I mean, he would have been up there even at the time with like Michael Jackson, George the President.
Yeah.
Like he would have been.
He gets a seat on the floor.
Zero grasp. I just knew, I was like, it was something big.
Yeah.
That's actually a vivid memory I have from like probably somewhere between like 9 and 11, that you just, one of those things that you just kind of remember. Even closing my eyes, was like it was one of those like concrete basketball courts. He was sitting on one side and everyone's kind of lined out. So, yeah.
I think things you do in person as a kid really matter. Like
I went to Dusty Baker
camps.
baseball camp in Sacramento.
Yeah, see, I was going to say, I think going to camp, I went to Johnny Oates. Sat on his lap?
Well, every kid did. You sit on his lap and he talks to you for a little bit and gives you
advice. No, that's pretty cool.
Asks you where you're from, and he had the toothpick.
Yeah,
Dusty
cool.
was a smooth. Dusty's a Sacramento guy.
Yeah, I know. That's awesome.
My dad always told this story. UC Davis basketball camp. I don't remember this at all. Probably 95, 96. So I would have been like 10, 11. I remember going to these camps, but Bob Williams, who ended up, I think, played at Arizona, coached at Santa Barbara for a while, was like UC Davis coach, led him to a national championship, then went to Santa Barbara, was friends with Steve Kerr. And Steve Kerr showed up like when the parents showed up to like put on a little clinic. My dad always tells a story like how he showed up in like Sperry topside, just like kind of like casual dress shoes, and just fucking banging off 3-pointers. And everyone's like, and he's playing for the Bulls at the time. So swish, 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 swish.
That's a superpower.
Yeah.
I think going to camps as a kid I went to the Johnny Oates Orioles camp. I remember us going to a Suns camp when we were in Arizona. It was like Mark West. It's like Mark West is running this camp. He played for on the good Suns teams. But he obviously, it's never Charles Barkley's camp. It's Mark West's camp. But it was awesome. Wayman Tisdale, I think, showed up. Camps for kids are great. That's a good question, Scott. Next up from Lance. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and this is the best one, except for Pardon My Take. Ham is a close second. Thanks, Lance.
Thanks, buddy.
Hachigian. I think Lance might be an Armenian.
I think so.
This is from Nico. First time review, long time listener. I'm sure that you two know that in order to have a fair and more accurate draft analysis, you normally have to wait 3 years. That being said, can you do an analysis of the 2019 Niners draft, including undrafted free agents? I think it'd be a great thing for you to do every year, since I rarely see any articles and videos that analyze the draft from 3 years back. Thanks. Keep up the great work. Nico, this is actually, remember, we addressed this question on the version of the mailbag last week that didn't.
I was thinking you reading this. I'm like, haven't we done this before? I was like, oh, yeah.
Somebody forgot to hit record last time we did this one.
We gave it a good grade because they got Bosa, they got Debo, they got Greenlaw, they got Agier as an undrafted free agent. So they got multiple starting linebackers, a star, Debo. I think it's a pretty high level draft.
They got 2 undrafted free agents that year. Aziz, and who's the other one?
Juwan Jennings won?
No, Juwan Jennings was a 7th rounder in the 2 years later. Aziz Al-Shire and Kevin Givens. Maybe it was Kevin Givens that we're thinking of.
They had several other players that are not on the team anymore that play for other teams and got snaps. So you get credit for drafting NFL players. Wasn't the tight end, the kid from Stanford was one that ended up playing for the Giants. Like, if you draft a guy in the 6th round and you cut him,
Caden Smith, right?
Yeah, and he ends up starting games for other teams. Like, you get credit for identifying an NFL player, right?
Absolutely, you do. They took Tim Harris in that draft, Justin School in that draft, Caden Smith, Dre Greenlaw. I think we would agree you probably want a little more out of Mitch Wishnowsky, but they took their starting punter in that draft. Really, the only miss in that draft was Jalen Hurd. Everybody else in the draft, you'd say Tim Harris in the 6th round was a hit.
Which, and in fairness to Jalen Hurd, that was taking a swing, right? That wasn't like they knew what they were getting into. They were just taking a swing for the fence, and they missed.
Yeah.
I have no problem with you. You know, you take enough swings for the fences, you're going to miss on some of these guys. Balky did a lot, but you take the injured guys later in drafts, you know, where they would have gone a little higher, and it just backfired.
That's a pretty high hit rate right there. Next up from Ryan, found Haberman and Middlekauff during the 2020 season, spelled SZN. Best find ever. Love the insight from both these guys. Only podcast I listen to start to finish. Do you listen to, thanks, Ryan. Do you listen to podcasts start to finish? What would you say your percentage of finishing a podcast is?
Well, I skip a lot of stuff. I mean, it's just all over the map, not very high. Under 10%.
Yeah.
And again, like it's sometimes on in the background for what radio used to be to us as consumers.
Things,
yeah, you're doing other things, and
yeah,
I do a lot of that.
Yeah. John, let's tell the people about our friends at Indeed.
Oh.
Indeed.com/ham. Where right now, when you sign up for Indeed, you get a $75 credit towards your first sponsored job post, plus an extra $500 in extra sponsored job credits with Indeed's virtual interviews. Just go to Indeed.com/ham to learn more.
Yep. With Instant Match, Guy, over 80% of employers get quality candidates instead of hours on multiple job sites searching for candidates with the right skills. Indeed's a powerful hiring partner that can help you do it all. Find great talent faster through time-saving tools. Like I said, Indeed Instant Match. We're all looking for help. We're all looking to improve. We had a friend who might be a future 1099 employee for us reach out. So, can we get together? We got ideas. I said, it's hard to find good help.
Mm-hmm.
And if we didn't know them, we wouldn't know about them. Well, that's where places like Indeed, which are great because you get virtual interviews, everything's done online. It helps you, siphon out the things you're looking for and the things you're not in an individual candidate. A lot of candidates out there, Guy. It's hard to find the one you want, and that's where our friends at Indeed come through.
We've been talking for a minute about Indeed. In that minute, 16 hires were made on Indeed. When you sponsor an Indeed post in the U.S., you are 3 times more likely to get a hire.
Oh.
Okay, so do that. Join the 3 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. Sign up for Indeed now. Get a $75 credit towards your first sponsored job. Plus, you earn up to $500 extra in sponsored job credits with Indeed's virtual interviews. Visit Indeed.com/ham to learn more. Claim your credits at Indeed.com/ham. Indeed.com/ham. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need
Indeed.
Next up on the mailbag, John, this is from Henry. Kick-ass show. Question for you. A fantasy world where there's a new expansion NFL team created tomorrow out of Des Moines, Iowa, for some reason. And the rules for them is they build the roster. They can trade future picks for players inside free agents. How competitive would this team be? Say they play in no division. Maybe the schedule is like the bottom 8 of the AFC and the bottom 9 of the NFC. And maybe their quarterback's Jimmy G. Maybe they're coached by Sean McVay. Love the show. Thanks, Henry. Okay, so he wants to create a team that's, for some reason, it's in Des Moines.
Okay.
And they build their roster. They can trade future picks for players and sign free agents.
Well, the only way you could give them enough players, remember, it feels like it's been so long ago, when a startup franchise like the Texans came around or the Jags, they do that thing where you're only allowed to claim 90% of your roster or whatever, 80% of your roster.
Protect, yeah.
Yeah, protect. So I can pick players from other teams that are not protected. You have to do something like that for them to acquire some players. You can't just start a team from scratch. So I think if you did do a startup, or what's it called? What's a team that comes out of expansion team? You have to do that so they can get a base of 30 NFL players, and then they get a draft, and then they sign some free agents. And historically, they still are terrible, right? That first year or two. But you have to give them some base. So I would say, and I would not, you can't trade future picks for players in an expansion team because fucking you need the picks.
Right. So the way the Texans one worked was each team had a list of 5 players that the Texans could choose from. the Texans had to claim either 30 players or $27 million in contracts, so which was 38% of the salary cap at that time. And then there was, free agency and the draft.
So I gave you 5 players on my, at the time, I think it was a 75-man roster or whatever. Or I guess out there, 53-man roster? Or is the offseason roster?
You would think it would have to be the 53-man, right? The offseason roster would just be, well, here, I'll tell you who their team. Their most expensive player was cornerback Aaron Glenn. They had players from the Jets for some reason. I don't know exactly how this. Yeah, they have 3 players from the Jets.
Well, if you were in cap hell and you wanted to get rid of a guy that you weren't going, if you cut, you got dead cap, you would put him on that list, right?
But how they end up with 3 guys?
Because the Jets probably were in cap hell at the time, and they just put expensive players on there. So
the Jets wanted. So like, I'm just reading here. The Jets wanted Aaron Glenn, and they thought the Texans wouldn't take him because he was so expensive, but the Texans took him. So it was like they tried to bluff, and the Texans called their bluff.
Why would they put him on the list in the first place?
Maybe to protect another player, because they're not going to take this $8 million player. So we're really only putting 4 players on the list because they're not going to take Aaron Glenn.
But what I would have asked them at the time, their salary cap is they don't have anybody on the book. So why does it matter? $8 million, $3 million player?
They didn't
take the best player.
That's the story. They didn't think they would not. They didn't. They took Tony Baselli, Aaron Glenn, Gary Walker, who was an All-Pro, a Pro Bowl defensive tackle from the Jags, making $5 million. Jermaine Lewis, the receiver from the Ravens.
Can you imagine, Guy?
Danny Warfel from the Bears.
If there was an expansion team and this exercise happened right now, how fun it would be.
God, it'd be amazing.
Because every single team's fan base it would be the most fascinating. Like, you wouldn't be able to bluff. You would be like, yeah, they really don't like that guy, turns out, right?
It would be a great way to get rid of salary, too.
It'd be incredible.
Be like, D Ford.
Would Jimmy Garoppolo be on the Niners list? Of course he would, right?
No, they want to trade him.
But you don't think they'd put him on this list?
No, they wouldn't put him on the list. They would try and trade him to the expansion team.
Well, I would say that we would have a big, long talk about, like, wait, you're not putting him on the list just to get rid of him?
On the list.
It would be a hell of a topic because I would be infuriated if they didn't put him on the list.
This is from Arcabs, 5 stars. This is my jam. Just like hanging out with your boys, but like your smarter boys. Bar recommendation: Walter's Sports Bar across from Nats Park in D.C. Note: I live in D.C. We've been to the Nationals Park in D.C. What I remember about that was driving through a neighborhood very close to the stadium that didn't feel like a neighborhood that'd be right by the stadium. I don't remember. Do you remember Walter's Sports Bar?
No.
I
don't remember much about the outside beside once we were in.
I just remember feeling like there wasn't anything around the stadium to do, but maybe
it felt a little.
We didn't come from we came out of like a neighborhood, I remember, which was weird.
Yeah, it felt a little, different, but a Levi Stadium kind of just in the middle of nowhere. It didn't make sense. I've been to DC again, and it was incredible, but I didn't go by the stadium. I've been to both the Nationals Park and where the football team plays. They both feel not in the middle of stuff.
No.
But the Nationals Park easily could be, and I could just not have realized it.
Yeah. I just remember we drove through like this little street in a neighborhood, and then the stadium was right there. So maybe we came from the wrong side or something. But DC is a great town, but I don't. We drove from Philadelphia?
Yeah.
How long did that take us?
2 hours, 20 minutes. Not very far.
Next up, JT. I'm a Spotify listener, but since that one guy drops you guys down to a 4.8 with his 1 star, I figured I'd come in and give you guys a 5-star review to help the rating, earning your stars. Not even a question. We appreciate that. Thanks, JT.
Thanks, buddy.
This is shout out to Wood Gravy for turning me on to this show from Used Goat. They got code names. Question for the pod. Guy, we've seen some horrible broadcast crews, especially during the Tom Sula and Chip Kelly eras. You've mentioned your study habits. Do the broadcast crews make a difference for play-by-play or color guys? When years back, Jimmy Ward was talked about as an undrafted free agent or a 7th rounder on a broadcast. Was that solely on the guy talking? Does the broadcast crew make a difference for the play-by-play or color guy?
I think is what he's saying is because when the team was really shitty, they got the worst Fox crew for the games. Is that what he's meaning? Not like the 49ers broadcast. I think he's talking about the worst Fox or CBS broadcast on the shittiest games.
Okay.
Which would make sense.
Oh, so is he asked? So when years back, Jimmy Ward was talked about as an undrafted free agent or 7th rounder on a broadcast, was that? So I guess somebody made a mistake, is what he's saying. Do people?
He's just saying the guys on the worst crew have no clue what's going on. It feels like when they
gotcha. So it's hard to know who. Some people do all of their own prep. Well, I would say most people have some sort of help, whether it's. But it's very possible that some guys have their boards made. Like the board is what, like it's called a spotting board. It's like a much more intricate, if you're watching the video version of this thing that I'm holding up, that tells you. Some people do it numerically. Some people arrange it by position. Like, oh, there's a 4-3 defense, so I'm going to arrange it that way. But so some people make those themselves. Some people have people make them for them. So it's definitely possible that somebody made one. It said undrafted free agent or 7th rounder. They just read that and were wrong. So, I mean, that's definitely possible. I think it's harder to prepare for bad teams. Like good teams are on. For example, like I think Joe Buck calls all the best games, right? So when he just casually sits down and watches a game that's not his, it's probably a good game, and it's probably going to be a team that, you know, he calls a lot of Cowboys games. He watches a lot of Cowboys games, so he can probably know the Cowboys like the back of his hand. If you're like, Joe, Jags tomorrow, he'd be like, oh, that's a lot of work. That's a lot more work for him than, you know. Like Monday Night Football is going to be a change for Joe and Troy. You brought this up to me the other day because they're used to your like number one Fox game is a better game consistently than your Monday Night Football game.
Yeah, I mean, they basically do 5 teams on some sort of loop. The Packers, Tom Brady, the Cowboys, throw a little Eagles in there, the best teams in the West, right? Boom, on just a loop playing each other. And like when the Rams play the Packers, they do that game. When the Bucks play the Rams, they do that game. When the Niners play the Rams, they do that game. When the Cowboys play the Bucks, they do that game. So the carryover and crossover to the games they do. What I was thinking, do you agree that like if we were going to do a show, we're just doing a podcast tomorrow, someone handed us the printout of what we're going to talk about, and they press record immediately, we just start talking, and we look down at like what the topic is. Is that the equivalent of someone doing your board? Like, isn't part of like putting your own show together, putting your own board together? It's a little different.
I would say it's a little different because, you know, when we do a show, it's the stuff that we want to talk about. Whereas the starting safety is the starting safety. It's not about whether I want to talk about the starting safety. I just need to know that 37 is the starting safety and his last name is Smith, right? So I would say it's a little different in that way. But yeah, I mean, I don't think you're totally wrong just because the preparation is doing the board is part of the preparation. I've definitely worked with people who don't look at the board until the game starts, and they don't know anything. It's useless. You can't just start looking at it right then when the game starts. And ideally, you're preparing, and as you're preparing, you're making notes, and you made the note. So I definitely think there's a value when you make the note. It means more to you than if somebody else makes the note. Because to make the note, you probably had to read something and then condense it down to one line, as opposed to if somebody says, like as an example, the kind of thing that would be on a board would be like, John Middlekauff is the starting running back. And it would say like, John Middlekauff Sr. played 3 years in the NFL for the Seahawks, right? That'd be like from your bio, and that's on the thing. So if somebody else made that for me and I just looked at it, I'd be like, there's John Middlekauff Sr., whose dad, junior, his dad, senior, played in the league, Seahawks running back for 3 years. And that's it. That's all the information I have. Whereas if I made it myself, I'd probably look up John Middlekauff Sr., and I'd be like, oh, shit, he had 100 yards. His best game came in this stadium where Junior's playing today. And you just have a little more context. You can usually tell when
he picked off Dan Marino the last time he played the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, you would just that's how I do it. I take the bullet point and then I try to make it sound like a real story. And I can tell when I watch a game and somebody is just working off of like the bullet points in the biography. You can tell pretty easily. Yeah, I think. So I don't know if that.
You remember the size of the board, Sean McDonough, when he did those 2 years with Gruden?
It was huge. Now, my board's gotten bigger over time because I've made my font bigger, but McDonough's used to fold, and he'd always hold it just to show, like, look at all the work I've done.
You know who he's actually pretty good at is hockey. I've just watched some playoff hockey.
Yeah, I've heard
channels.
I've heard he's really good at it.
The hockey guys on ESPN and TNT, I've casually just ended up on a couple like 10-minute stretches of hockey.
Yeah.
That's a hard sport to call. Like, you
Man.
got to know what you're talking about. Like Kenny Albert, I think, is a hockey guy.
Yep.
He's just, you got to really not only like it, know it. There's a tempo to it. It's a fucking challenge.
You got to know that you can't just like fly ball to the left and Iserman with the catch. It's like Iserman to Middlekauff to Lemieux to Haberman.
It is the playoffs are like on
line
cocaine.
Chain. They don't stop the game for the subs.
Crazy.
All right, next up. First time, long time. Love the show. What golf ball do you use, and does it matter?
You know what? I can't even grab it from where I'm sitting. I got an email. You know the balls that have the let me grab it actually.
Okay. I'm holding a Tito's brand Pro V1. Tito's is not paying for this advertisement today, but they're getting it because Devin gave us some Pro V1s.
I got an email from golfballs.com, and sometimes they sell practice balls. Like, like a PJ Tour event, Ricky Fowler hits his ball on the range. They have him waiting for Tiger. They all hit their own golf ball on the range.
Right.
So, the TaylorMade guys that play like the ball that kind of looks like a soccer ball.
Yeah. Yeah.
They usually sell them for like $10 discount. So if it's $49.99, maybe you can get for like $42 or whatever. They were on sale for $22.99. So I got 4 dozen for $100. Now they say practice on them.
Yeah.
So what I do when I need a new set, I'll go through all 12 and I'll take a black Sharpie and I'll put a line through it.
Because you don't want other people. Why do you do that?
Well, because I'm playing, if I'm going to use it on the course.
Yeah.
I don't want people to see I have a practice ball, even though it is a real, like if they're practice, it could easily say Middlekauff on it.
Right.
But it's pretty clear that this was used. Could have been a college event, any event. It was used for something. Just random driving range.
Now, was that ball definitely already used or just was slated to be used and never got used?
There's a little wear and tear. They've been hit on the range.
Okay.
So, looking back, to me, the price point, $100 for 48 golf balls, no issue. But you do black Sharpie too, because the red you can see through. So you got to go black Sharpie. It takes.
Yeah.
I've done it twice now. It takes 15 minutes to go through each ball.
We had I made some Vice golf balls a couple of years ago with our logo on it. I didn't love that ball. I always the question doesn't matter. It matters to really good players. You correct me if I'm wrong here. Like John's good at golf. It matters more to you than it does to me. I play a Bridgestone golf ball, the E6, I think, which is one of their lower level golf balls. I do have a few of the nicer balls that I got somehow, and I tend to like a softer golf ball, I think. But
I like TP5X, the TaylorMade, which is what that is and what I normally play without the soccer look too.
Yeah.
Problem is they cost $50 for 12.
How about the Pro V1?
To me, that ball is a little soft for me. I mean, it's a lot of pros play it.
Yeah.
But I would say it's considered the best ball.
It's a 3-layer ball, right? 3-layer versus 2-layer. The more expensive balls are 3-layer balls. I would imagine the ball.
I think there's Pro V. That Pro V is the softer, and the Pro V1X tends to be the little harder one. But I think Tiger Phil like a softer ball.
Yeah, Tiger plays the Bridgestone, so I play the Bridgestone, John.
Yeah.
Tiger still play Bridgestone?
Yeah, he plays Bridgestone.
Yeah, that's why I play Bridgestone. All right, next up, this is from WCW. Love the show. Just want to let you know that you do a great job. I've been listening for a couple years or so. Got hooked on your intro. Never tried my hand at betting. Do you suggest that I start with the bookie site or DraftKings? Keep up the good work. Thanks, Willie. P.S. You guys should talk a little Giants during the Niners offseason. Chuck Peterson.
Depends where you live.
Yeah, depends on the state. So we need to know the state you're in there, Willie. But
if you're in California, mybookie.ag.
Yeah, that's the easy one. Next up, authentic takes, thoughtful, informative. Love the humor. Makes following the Niners fun. I used to only read the ones.
My problem with the Giants also, I go to bed at now like 9 o'clock. So I don't
watch them today. The problem is Giants run at 3. Who they got? The Marlins?
Are they playing right now?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. This is Sunday's show.
Well, that means they have a day game on Sunday.
Good guy to know. 1 star. This review is titled "Tired of the Lies." If Steph Curry does it, great. Anybody else, it's a problem. 1 star, good sirs.
Do you know what he's talking about?
If you're going to give us a 1-star review, you at least have to be specific, I would say. If you're going to hurt our business like this, and you hurt our business when you give us a 1-star review, which if we earned a 1-star review, like if I served you some chicken with some hair in it or it was dry, if I earned the 1-star, then I earned the 1-star. But this is a bullshit review. Because I don't know what this is. If it's what I think it is, then it's bullshit. Horseshit, actually. I like saying horseshit better. If this is about flopping, because I hate flopping and I call flopping out, and there's 2 things I hate: flopping and unnatural jump shots where you like kick your legs out and you fall away, whatever. I've made videos of Steph's flopping jumpers. So I hold Steph as accountable for that as anybody else. If that's what this is about, then it's horseshit. Now, if it's about something else, then I don't know what it's about. then
does it really hurt our business if they go 1 stars?
Not really. I just like the 4.9 is so close to a 5.0, and now 2 1-stars we've dropped to a 4.8 rating. And I don't want to fall to like a 4.5, you know.
Yeah, still an A.
I know, but anybody can be a 4.5. Like I want a 4.9. I like the 4.9. I want to get back to the 4.9. If you think we deserve a 1-star, I'm not telling you to give us something other than what we deserve, but at least have a understandable complaint so we can address the issue properly. You know, try and make it right as the restaurant.
Joey Votto just hit a home run.
Joey Votto. Next up from Crimson Wright. What's up, fellas? Been a fan for years. Found John through Colin, then Ham from there. I live in Mississippi, and so I've never been a true NFL fan of a single team, but I'm a huge Alabama fan, so I just root for Alabama guys in the league. Y'all's show does have me appreciating rooting for the Niners a lot more now. They remind me of an SEC team. But my question, have y'all heard Shady McCoy's quotes about Eric Bieniemy does never get hired as a head coach? What are y'all's thoughts on why he hasn't been hired? You were just talking to Andy Reid yesterday about this. What did he say?
Yeah. I saw a video the Chiefs put out yesterday. It was like, I don't know if it was Mahomes because he was playing golf. It was another quarterback, and Nagy was right next to him. I was like, transition already starting?
Yeah.
Listen, I've heard different things. I've never, in all sincerity and seriousness, I've never asked Andy Reid about Eric Bieniemy. Veach doesn't text me back anymore. The guy that I do text with, he's always said good things about him, but Shady was not making that up. Now, not defending Eric Bieniemy because I think his resume is pretty clear. People do not want to hire the guy. It ain't a race issue at this point. He is unhireable. That's the way the league views him. People do not want to hire him. Robert Saleh, who came out of nowhere, boom, fucking went to the front of passed his ass fast.
His alma mater. Now, maybe he doesn't want to be a college coach. His alma mater had an opening in an emergency situation that didn't go to him.
Didn't even interview him, right?
I don't know if I don't think so, but I know they didn't consider him.
And he's constantly doing, remember when Helton got fired and like 20 minutes later, it was like Schefter. Eric Bieniemy would be highly interested in the job. I'll never forget that Schefter tweet. It was literally like, Clay Helton's been fired, Bruce Feldman. Within 30 minutes, Schefter had a tweet. Sources say that Eric Bieniemy would be highly interested. Well, no shit.
John Middlekauff would be interested in some pizza tonight.
Yeah. It's like, what are we talking about? But something's off. I mean, something's off. Now, Shady had a bad reaction with him. But one thing he did mention that I do wonder, like, Eric Bieniemy is like a legit, I think, kind of hard on players. Like Shady was saying, he's like an asshole. And I think it's a fine balance when they go, well, bro, like, it's one thing if you're Kyle Shanahan or Andy Reid or Belichick, like, you're not even, are you calling the plays? Like, you're yelling at me? What? Shady's like, I've been in this offense longer than you have.
I think it's dangerous to use one player's opinion about a coach
especially
if the experience is he's an asshole. Like every coach who's ever coached the sport has a player that thinks he's an asshole.
But it clearly got weird this year with him and the Chiefs because they signed him late. Remember that whole deal?
Yeah. Something. I do think there's something to the story consistently that we don't get, and I
don't even think it's debatable at this point. There's something there.
Frank in Boise says, how long before an NFL player... By the way, I think one last thought on Bieniemy. It's felt like we've talked about it like it was inevitable that he would become a head coach. I do not... If you had to bet right now, does he become a head coach or not? In the NFL? You say no. I agree. Frank in Boise, how long before an NFL player signs a contract with a player opt-out, like in the NBA or Major League Baseball? Any thoughts as to which QB might be the first? Great show, guys. Been listening since the radio days. Whoa.
Because wouldn't you say the opt-outs are always on the team? Like, we can cut you.
Yeah, the baseball opt-outs are like,
I
what's his
become a
name? The
free
shortstop
agent.
from the Astros has one with the Tigers this year.
Cueto famously had that and picked it up.
Cueto's was like, opt-in, hurt, opt-in.
Westbrook this year is like $48 million. I think he's opting in. Harden's has a 44.
The player opt-out is the one that's pretty
I guess
crazy.
Basketball has it too.
What's the name of the shortstop on the Tigers now? Who am I? Number one from the Astros, the shortstop.
Carlos Correa.
Carlos Correa, yeah. I think he has it's a 2-year, it's like 2 opt-in. He's got like a $15 million opt-in.
That's pretty prevalent in baseball with the best players, right?
Yeah. Now it is. Yeah.
I think it's unheard of in football. It doesn't exist.
An opt-in. Yeah. It's the opposite. It's like, we're going to franchise tag you and there's nothing you can do about it. I don't think it's ever coming to the NFL.
I don't think so either. I don't even think we're close. I'd also say besides
the question is an opt-out. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, my mistake. Yeah.
Yeah. Remember Tom Brady got it like 2 years ago. That's how he became a free agent. Remember that's how he became a free agent?
Did they not read?
They redid his contract that if he wanted to become a free agent, he could. And then he became, and even that wasn't even a true opt-out. It was just, I don't think the NFL is even remotely close.
Like here's a 5, because the difference is,
I think they look at that and they laugh.
Well, here's the other thing that's different, right, about the NFL NBA is the Johnny Cueto contract is, here's a 5-year contract, whatever the number was. It
was like 125.
120. It's a 5-year contract, and it's all guaranteed if you want it to be, but you can also walk away from it if you had a great year, right?
Yeah, so we're willing to pay you $40 million. You have a great year, you can, but that's the only way you can get them.
But what I'm saying is the difference in the NFL and the NBA is, to start with, it's a guaranteed contract for 5 years, the whole thing. Whereas the NFL doesn't even have that. Forget about opt-outs. You don't even have the full 5-year, your whole contract isn't guaranteed to you in the NFL. Yeah. So it's kind of a double.
Same thing with like Harden and Westbrook. Like if they want to opt out this year, they can opt out. If they want to opt in, it's like a combined $90 million, right?
Westbrook's was 48, I think.
I think Harden's is 44. Which is worse?
Well, I don't know. I mean, the one thing I would say for Westbrook, at least Westbrook can, like, if you said, all right, we're running 10 suicides, Westbrook could do it. And he would do it at a very high speed.
I listened to Russillo had like a 15-minute segment on the NBA Finals on his Thursday podcast on just different topics and stuff. And they ended with the question, non-finals question, like you had to pick one player to have on your team this fall, Westbrook, Harden, Simmons. And Ryan was like, I immediately hate the question. But he starts with the premise of one guy of the three we unequivocally know wants to play and enjoys playing, and that's Russell. He's probably the worst of the three. Yeah. Harden at any moment can literally like, I quit. Simmons kind of quit, might have been hurt, but also doesn't need to shoot like the other two. They ended up on Simmons.
I think Simmons is 100% the answer, because at least he's not addition by subtraction. He just doesn't play, and that's fine. He's just not going to play, and I can run 5 other guys out there.
Yeah, Westbrook wants to play almost too bad.
He's taking shots from somebody.
Harden at any moment just might do nothing.
Ben's just there. Costs me money as the owner, but he's not hurting my team on the court because he doesn't play.
Yeah. And if he does play, he doesn't need to shoot.
Very good point. Sometimes you want him to take a layup, though.
Does that draft not look as great, drafting Harden and Westbrook? Or does Presti still get a lot of credit for that, 15 years later?
I think it still looks – I think he gets a lot of credit for it. Yeah.
You can't judge people in their latter years.
It was great for him, and then it was great for the next team, and great – like, it's been great for multiple people.
Yeah. Crazy careers.
Why?
Basketball careers tend to get the craziest because the NFL just ends. Like, Frank Gore is kind of an anomaly. Most Frank Gores – their careers don't go that extra 5 years.
Like Alex Mack plays a whole season and then just walks away.
Just done. Like JJ Watt,
he's an outlier.
I'd even say probably he is too.
Yeah.
NBA careers, like kind of like, God, you remember those last 3 years of Karl Malone? It's just like it's always that. Baseball, it's usually the one season. Like, remember Willie Mays on the Mets? It's just the one. But basketball, it's like, Remember those last 4 years, Allen Iverson? Because
Yeah.
they just last a little longer.
Baseball would be like, hit 320, hit 317, 280, 280, 270, 250, played in 17 games and was 0 for 87 and retired.
Well, it's like Carmelo Anthony. Do you remember his last 4 years? Played for the Blazers for 2, somehow ended up on the Lakers. And if you told me Carmelo Anthony plays this year on the Magic, believable.
Yeah.
It's like, remember those last 4 years of Carmelo Anthony?
Like, yeah, Carmelo had averaged 13
Yeah. Well, that last year it's like 7, and then it's
on
over.
20 shots.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thanks for getting in the mailbag. Get in the next mailbag. We always appreciate your participation in that. Looking forward to game 3 of Warriors Celtics as well. We'll be back with live shows this week, and we'll talk to y'all later. Thanks.
May the peace be with you.
And we're going to Niners practice on Tuesday. So don't forget, Niners practice Tuesday. So
Let's hope they try and have more attendance this time.
Yes. All right, later, y'all.